The Open Public Meetings Act. Notice that this meeting has been provided by advertisement in the Cape May Star and Wade on the Township website and has been posted on the bulletin board at Township Hall.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Conrad. Here. Councilmember Neville.
Oh, he's at Wildwood Catholic's graduation, where his son is the valedictorian. So I told him, listen to speech and get back here right away. It's just starting, he must be very proud. Eli's a great kid. Go ahead.
Councilmember Douglas. Here. Deputy Mayor Clark.
Here.
Mayor Beck.
Here. Okay, we start out with our work session. We have a presentation tonight. I'll turn it over to Norris for introductions.
Mayor, we met a wonderful gentleman by the name of Dave Pacevich, who is a biology teacher and track teacher at the regional high school. He came into one of our council meetings early on this year and said he wanted to do more to build a bridge between our educational system and the township and the community at large. And we have since then been joined at the hip and looking for ways to do that. David is done a lot of wonderful things at the school besides teaching. He's also been one that you might have read about that encouraged a better approach to dancing, I think, in the high school. And also David has been the one that's been encouraging some patriotic representations at the school regarding our veterans. So Dave took it upon himself to pursue a grant with the New Jersey Education Association, a grant that was all about building bridges between the community and the educational and the school system. And so I'm going to invite Dave to come forward and talk about the purpose of this grant and what has come out of it. And he's also going to be joined by two other folks that have helped him through this.
They had to go.
They had to go?
Yeah.
Okay, so Dave, come on up. We'll talk about them along the way. Yep, the mic is on. Yeah. I think you want to
Face the camera and work.
face, yeah.
Okay.
I think the best way to
Speak,
kind of,
Dave, speak.
Hi, good evening. As you saw when you walked in, there's a newly made, handcrafted recognition wall, and it was made by R&R Specialties in Rio Grande. And the idea behind it was to basically get volunteers within the community, the senior centers, the retired teachers, everybody to basically come out and help to provide whatever services they might be able to provide to the community. With the new Fishing Creek School, not new, I guess the newly renovated Fishing Creek School, the idea is that we can use that as kind of a hub of a lot of these activities, and in the future it will kind of drive a lot of people over to try to help out and run some things on a voluntary basis, rather than maybe looking for some kind of payment for doing the services. On there, you'll notice that it says after 30 hours of their time, and the way we're going to keep track of that is if you go to the Lower Cape May Regional website, there's a link. You can click it, and 4 questions will pop up. I'd like to put it on the Lower Township link also, if we could. And it asks, who are you? Who are you recommending as a volunteer for the community? What have they done and how much time have they put in doing it? And that will go over to a database where it will get chronologically listed, and we'll be able to keep track of everybody that is volunteering their time in the township. Now I understand we could probably fill this thing today with tons of names. We just need people to put the names up and let us know what their names are so we can put the plaques on the board. The idea behind the board is it's going to travel. It'll spend time in the Fishing Creek School. It'll spend time in here, in the elementary schools and in the high school. And it'll keep moving around. You'll notice it has wheels in the bottom. It's easily folded. And it's built, customized to the size of the back of a bed of a truck so it can be traveled from place to place. Any questions?
So what are the things that people can do to be nominated? What types of things should people be thinking about?
One person I tend to think about is I read in the newspaper maybe 3 years ago, Ed Whalen. He's a mechanic, and his children went through the high school. And I remember they recognized him for keeping up the baseball fields. And he wasn't doing it to get paid. He was doing it to keep them nice and let the kids have a nice place to play sports. I thought that was great. But I'd also like to see it kind of commemorated, all of his efforts, because as hard as we try, we can't do it forever. So try to get our names on kind of a hall of fame of volunteers within the community.
That have supported the, now this is just for the high school, or are we?
Everybody. Is there somebody that shows up to your house because you're unable to, rakes your yard? I mean, really it's open to whoever you think's been doing a good job as a citizen, and they are putting time in, and they're not looking for a paycheck in return.
So this is really any kind of community service.
Exactly, right.
And they can go to the website. We can, either at the high school website, or we can link it from our website. People can nominate people that have been serving the community in some way, explain what they've done, and then you'll vet those, and the each individual that's accepted will have a plaque on.
Yes, yeah. And the plaques are in our specialties, everything's paid for. We just have to show up with the names, tell them who is next to be placed on the plaque. And you'll notice the walkway towards the school, tried to show just about every walk of life, heading up towards this one place where we all tend to commune. That's kind of the vision I've seen as far as thinking of that as kind of the center of Lower Township. You're going to have concerts there this summer. I read on the website you're going to have after-school activities. I think it's an awesome place to try to start grabbing everybody that wants to participate and let them out and say, hey, let's do this together. And this is a good way to start.
So this is an exhibit, basically, of public service that we can move from the school to the Fishing Creek School to Town Hall. And when people say, what's that all about, we can say, this is an opportunity to talk about the people that have done some good deed for this community.
Exactly.
Okay. That's great. That's fantastic. And this was made possible by a grant that you applied for from the NJEA.
Yeah, it's actually called a Pride Grant. And the push is to build pride within your community. But the catch is it has to link community with the school. It can't just be for the students. It has to pull everybody in to participate.
So I just want to thank you and commend you for, I mean, this is way outside of the job description of being a track coach and a biology teacher. You took it upon yourself to apply for a grant. You got the grant. You took the idea of integrating it with our little one-room schoolhouse, which has become a symbol for what we're trying to do here in the community. And you've made a venue to honor, as you said, a hall of fame for community service that will live on for a lot of years. Because I can see how well that's been made. It's a very fine piece of carpentry. So I want to thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Put him on the board.
Tie-in, I think it's a wonderful idea. It's about time. Some volunteers, a lot of them are unsung, and everybody in this room knows a few in this community. And to tie in to help you get people to nominate, maybe us as council, once or twice a year, recognize them, bring them in, and so people know their names are up there. Some people don't even know what their neighbors are doing to help the community.
That's a good point. Is there some place where you're going to have a plaque with a name, right? Is it going to indicate at all for what purpose they were put up there? Are we going to know if they're deeds from that plaque?
The one right next to the American flag on there, it says Jane or John Q. Public.
Mm-hmm.
It'll say the date they were nominated. And it also says for their devotion and time to, and then there's colon for whatever it happened to be.
Little League, yes.
Exactly.
Brought all Ed, that's the reason.
So we're going to have the full testimony on the plaque.
Yep.
Yeah, that's great. And the door's open and the bell rings on that school, by the way, now.
Well, good ringing. Glenn?
I think your idea is really neat, and I think it's going to really be a benefit in the community to really recognize the people that are doing the things behind the scenes that a lot of us don't see, and we really appreciate from the township and the community going ahead and doing this for us and being part of a group. And you know, like the mayor said, we'll get you on a board or something there too. Like,
Yeah, he's got a lot of time left on his hands, I'm sure. Outstanding. I mean, it fits right in with the vision we have as a council for where we want to go. And it's neat to see people stepping forward, such as yourself. Kevin Maloney comes to mind. People that have a passion for this town and want to come out and provide leadership for no reason other than they feel that they can do it, and it's great. We saw, even yesterday, somebody talked about somebody with passion. The guy that ran the triathlon, which I'm sure we're all going to talk about at the end, that Steve Del Monte was, really incredible yesterday. But, this is where the township wins. It's not going to win because of what we do up here. It's going to win when the people out there become encouraged enough to get involved. And you can draw in somebody like yourself or John Louderback, who's running the Fishing Creek School. So, we wish you nothing but success, and thank you for your endeavors. And tell us what you want. Just keep on doing what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
All right.
If I could just introduce Kathy Parker. She's our union
Yes.
president over at the high school, and she's great. She's willing to, just like you guys, she's willing to work with me with any kind of ideas I might have. And as a token of our appreciation for having us, you guys on your way out, please take a jotter and a pen and just has our name on it. You can jot down some notes, honey-do lists and stuff like that.
I need another one at home.
Frank doesn't want one.
Yeah, Frank. Would you like to say anything?
No, I mean, that's what Pride's for. I mean, we've been sponsoring the basketball teams for the kids the last couple of years, and we sponsored the dance, to try to get, all our community for the ballroom dancing. And when Dave came to me and asked me about this, I said, it's a great idea. So let's do it. And we did.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. We're going to wheel that, put it in a corner somewhere so we don't run it over here. It's elections tomorrow in here, right? Move down to the consent agenda. Council comments or questions on the consent agenda? You guys okay? All right, we'll open up to public comment on the consent agenda. Anybody that wants to take a turn, come on up.
Rex Rockwell, the Villas. On resolution number 2013-160. It says the resolution authorizing payment and additional compensation, blah, blah, blah. And then down on resolution 2013-12, there's an ordinance for an emergency appropriation completing a reassessment. Now,
Right.
Can you explain to me why we need two of these for the same thing, and what is this $185,000 for?
Well, it's probably 1/10 minimally what a reval would cost. And our,
I understand that, Mayor. I don't
okay,
know but
go ahead.
that we did a reassessment once before, and it was $200,000.
A reassessment.
Yeah.
Yeah, this reassessment will be 185.
Well, then why do we have It's all the same thing. It's all the
They're
same.
both the same thing.
They're both the
One
same thing.
authorizes the payment of it, one authorizes the deed, and the second one authorizes paying for the deed.
The ordinance deals with raising the money.
Right.
The resolution.
It wasn't
deals
budgeted
with
for?
what?
No, we didn't, when we began the year, it goes into an emergency appropriation, it's paid over 5 years. You have a set of circumstances where, yeah, it's going to cost us money to get back to what we would call fair, so that everybody is paying the level at which they should be paying for the assessed value of their home.
Well, what is the difference between a revaluation and
A reval?
yeah, a reval?
Reval is
and
done by a
reassessment?
company, a reassessment's done in-house. And a reval, we would have to go out and hire a company. That's what took place. And that, you spend, by line item, it's like $85 a line item, times 16,000. Then you tack on the other incidentals, you're looking at a total that's close. By the time we would have got done with all the desserts involved, it would have been close to $2 million. And when we did that before, that was a mess. When we turned around 2 years later and did the reassessment, which is done in-house, not a reval, it's a reassessment, that was smooth, and it cost 1/10 of what the initial reval had cost.
Okay.
So that's where we're heading. Okay, the nuts and bolts, the
So
tax
we're
system.
actually, basically, we're looking about dropping down property taxes?
Well, you're not, no. What you're doing is you're trying to equalize the actual cost or the actual value of people's homes. When people went and did the reassessments, they have their homes leveled to the level that it should be, which is the current market value. But it left, say, if you had a $200,000 home, which was assessed a few years ago, it may only be worth $175 now. But you're paying taxes at the $200,000 level. Once we do this reassessment, everybody's assessment will be the actual value of their homes. So it evens it out. Some people who will see a tax increase this year, probably the majority of them will see a tax decrease in a minor way next year. Those people who got the, you can't guarantee it, I'm just saying, most people.
understand that.
Well, it all depends how it shakes out. The key is that we're not raising the spending. That's where it's at. If you're not raising the spending, and the actual increase in spending this year, as we explained, was about $200,000, which was the rest of it was due to the loss of revenue. This corrects that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Tom, did you?
Oh, no, I was just
Okay.
saying, there's three ways, it's either
Yeah,
go up, down.
it could, it's, you'll see. It's the best I can tell you. Any other questions?
Ed Butler from the Village, just to follow that up, the mechanics of this would be the same as the reassessment that was done by Tyler then. What you're saying, we'd have people on the street, you'd have,
You're talking about the reval that was done a few years ago, not the reassessment.
that was the reval, but
The
the
reval, this is the
reassessment, what's
reassessment.
your mechanics for it? How are you gonna handle the reassessment, as you wanna call it?
How are we going to handle it? It's done in-house by our tax assessor, and he's going to hire up to 5 part-time people to help him to go out and assess homes in
So
neighborhoods.
they'll be on the street, just
Yes, they will.
basically what Tyler did do, they have people on the street.
Yes,
And they'll be checking the houses out that are going through.
right.
So your wording, reval, reassessment, whatever it is, it'd be the same mechanics.
Within a certain
There.
parameter, I think that what they do is not a total door-to-door, but a certain percentage that's mandated by the state. Where with a reval, they got to do it all.
And this will meet the state standards
Yes.
as far as the time
We've already had the
frame.
approval and everything. yeah.
Before the time frame
Right.
of revals, reassessment.
They still have to approve the end product.
Right.
But, I don't want to get too far into the technical aspects of it. The assessors,
Well, it's just
we
a
don't. I got you.
matter of the people knowing what to expect when it comes time.
Right.
And it'll be out there. Will this be advertised? Will you be able,
We'll make sure people are aware.
people know about
Yeah,
it?
so they-
Or a robocall?
And
or
that's
whatever
not
it's
a
gonna
bad
be?
idea, so that people have the opportunity to know that there's people out knocking on doors.
Right, well, it's,
Okay.
just to bring it up to date. My other question would be on 2013-162,
And what would that
which is a memorandum of understanding.
Oh, yes.
Could you explain what that memorandum of understanding of what?
The historic district, do you want to handle that, Chuck?
What that is
Excuse me, sir, would you speak to the microphone?
Sure. What that is a couple of years ago, a petition was filed to turn a large portion of the airport into a historic district, almost a third of it. And in that proposed district were a lot of buildings that were owned or leased by the township. The county had concerns, the township had concerns, the MUA had concerns, so opposition was filed. And for the last, I'd say almost 2 years, we've been battling over this designation. So what we did was, it's as opposed to attend a hearing and have something rammed down our throats that would be very hard to palate, we took it upon ourselves to modify it. And as far as Lower Township is concerned, I think we made out very well because we modified it in such a way that the township is out of it completely. Not just that we were out of the historic district itself, but historic districts also have buffers. That if you're inside the buffer, a lot of times it restricts the activity that you do, even though you're not in the historic district, but you're in the buffer. And the end result of the negotiations, which is encompassed in this memorandum of understanding, is that we're out of it completely. So it has no effect on us.
There's no litigation, there's nothing with that, everything?
This is a resolution of any proposal.
Everybody agreed
Everybody
right now?
agreed.
So there's no more liability, nothing for the
The
town?
county's in agreement, the DRBA is in agreement, the petitioner who started the whole ball of wax is in agreement, the MUA is in agreement. Everybody agrees with what's contained in that memorandum that's been
Yeah,
passed.
there's a line in the contract that says the reduced footprint reflected in the proposed historic district will provide a balance of preservation of historic components of the airport with the goal of use of the airport for economic development in the county.
Right. So everybody will still have access to the airport and what they're doing? And
Absolutely, none
no
of that will
problem
change.
with that, and everything's okay there now?
Right.
No, that will change.
All right, very good, thanks for that.
Actually, it's good for both sides because it's going to enhance and promote the historic side of the airport, which Dr. Salvatore has done a wonderful job with, and leave us independent of all that so that it's not going to affect anything that we need to do.
It gives them a leg up on obtaining grants, one of the things by having.
Because when it comes up here, it just shows a memorandum of understanding, there's no explanation. You can't put everything on this, but
No,
that's why it's good to get it out there.
I believe it was
Yeah,
included in
okay,
the-
right. All right, thanks a lot for your time.
thank you. Is there any other questions on the consent agenda? Okay, we'll close the public portion.
Approval of minutes from May 20th, 2013. Resolution 2013-158 through 2013-163. Excuse me. Ordinance 2013-11, an ordinance amending ordinance 2012-21 entitled Salary and Benefit Ordinance for the Township of Lower. This is the introduction of this ordinance. The second reading and public hearing is scheduled for June 17. And ordinance 2013-12. An ordinance authorizing an emergency appropriation, NJSA 40A4-53, for the completion of a reassessment program in Lower Township, $185,000. This is also the introduction of this ordinance. The second reading and public hearing will be scheduled for June 17th.
Do I have a motion to approve in a second?
I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second.
Councilmember Conrad?
Yes.
Councilmember Douglas?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Clark?
Yes.
Mayor Beck?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Ordinance 2013-09, an ordinance of the Township of Lower, amending and restating Chapter 351, flood damage prevention. This is the second reading and public hearing. This ordinance has been advertised and has been made available to the public.
Okay. Do I have any questions from council regarding this ordinance?
Just a quick statement so people know, it doesn't mean we agree with the flood maps or what they're doing with it, but for our township to get residents to get flood insurance, we have to agree with it. For right now, it's very clearly stated. If you get a copy of the ordinance, that we're not necessarily agreeing with everything they're doing, but we're trying to protect the residents as best we can.
Right. Precisely. Council, you all right? Open up the public comment on this ordinance. Yes, ma'am.
Janet Pittsville. I just have one quick question regarding this ordinance. We're supposed to get the new maps, as I understand it, here in like July. some of the other areas are getting them in June, but we get it like by the end of July. Will that change this at all, or no?
My understanding, yes, it could. It depends on what the changes are. I should express that. It has the potential to change a little bit, but I don't expect the maps to have a huge change over here.
Okay.
All right.
Glenn and I were at a League of Municipalities meeting, they covered this. They had areas that were going to be severely flooded, and they were from back bays that were very shallow, and the guy was an expert on this. They were revising a lot of maps that shouldn't hopefully affect lower too much. They're redoing their signs, because the guy sat there and said their math was totally off. We had good seats for that, remember that? And the guy was excellent, and he had more damage being done to the bay side off of Back Bay hitting Avalon than from the ocean front.
Right,
And
the back bays of the
Yeah.
barrier islands as opposed to.
yeah, they had
our bay.
flooding almost all the way up to the beach, but the beach not coming in at all.
Right,
So they're revising everything, but we have to, it's like everybody in the States is screaming about these flood maps. We have to agree for our residents to get flood insurance,
right.
but we're agreeing that we're not always going to agree with what they're saying.
Okay.
What our flood zones are, and we'll do whatever we can to fight, protect our residents.
And if you need to amend it later,
Yeah, this is just saying we're going to do everything we can.
got you.
We're planning and stuff like that to protect
Okay,
the right
very
the
good.
flood insurance.
It went through our planning board.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
After reading that ordinance too, I see where the township or the people that may have problems with their property as they're zoned with the map whenever it comes out, do have the option to bring it up and contest it, even the township.
Mhm.
So you do have things built into that that could help out.
Right. Well, first of all, the maps stopped. Where is it, Coxhall Creek?
Somewhere just so.
Yeah, so the northern, the primary concern would be below that area and our island parcels, Diamond Beach and stuff like that. But they're not bringing the maps further up than than Coxhall Creek. All of the villas is not within the flood map, but that's different than the flood insurance. Okay.
Flood insurance could be a big problem with all that.
Flood insurance is
That's where we
based
go it.
in a large extent on the flood maps, but, if you're still, if you need flood insurance now, based upon your mortgage with your bank, you're still gonna need it.
Oh,
The
definitely.
point is that what we didn't do, and this was one of the things that we went through with FEMA for a long time, we were under the impression they were gonna have a next phase as far as bringing the maps north along the bay, but they did not. They stopped down just above Coxhall Creek. So a large part of Bayside Village and going through the villas area are not within the flood mapping scheme itself.
All right, so actually the north end of the village and all is not included in that, you just look.
Well, yeah, but don't take that to mean, like, for instance, that your flood insurance is not going to go up. That's a different animal altogether. You know that.
As long as it's not based on what FEMA, what the maps are, which
Right.
governs it and which can drive it up to $30,000 a year on somebody's
Right, I
property.
got
So, definitely everything goes up every
Right.
year, and so will the insurance. That was already been planned before any of this occurred.
And even that, there's moves within government and at the state level to petition to the federal level to change the schedule of the rate increases.
As long as
In a
it's
longer
built,
period rather than 4
Yeah.
years.
there's things built into the ordinance that they do have an option if things don't work out. You could do it even up to Coxhall Creek. And then you never know what's gonna come up later on if they decide to rewrite the maps or draw the maps further up. It
This
can
is,
happen anytime, I imagine, after that. You have
Yeah.
no control of that.
this is a long process.
Yeah. All right,
All
thank
right. Anybody else? Close the public portion. Do I have a motion to approve in a second?
Motion to approve ordinance 2013-09.
Second?
Councilmember Conrad?
Yes.
Councilmember Douglas?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Clark?
Yes.
Mayor Beck?
Yes.
Ordinance 2013-10, a bond ordinance authorizing the acquisition of various capital equipment and the completion of various capital improvements in and for the Township of Lower, County of Cape May, State of New Jersey, appropriating the sum of $1,139,000 Therefore, authorizing the issuance of general obligation bonds or bond anticipation notes of the Township of Lower, County of Cape May, State of New Jersey, in the aggregate principal amount of up to $1,080,000, making certain determinations and covenants, and authorizing certain related actions in connection with the foregoing. This is the second reading and public hearing of this ordinance. This ordinance has been made available to the public.
Okay. Council, questions, comments? All right. Is there any public comments on this information? Close the public portion. And do I have a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve ordinance 2013, number 10.
Second.
Councilmember Conrad?
Yes.
Councilmember Douglas?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Clark?
Yes.
Mayor Beck?
Yes.
Resolution 2013-164, supporting sustainable state funding for preservation and stewardship of open space, parks, farmland, and historical sites in New Jersey.
Council comments on this?
I'm going to stay with the same argument I had last time.
Right.
I do not see any need for to have a sustainable support state funding because the state spends on other things. They steal it. A lot of the money goes there. We have a lot of open space here in Lower. The county's done a wonderful job. I just don't see the reason to have more money, another administrative feature added to the state. They're large enough. It's adding to the bureaucracy. It's adding to money. I don't see it. Something's going to disappear and something's going to. I can't support this.
Okay. Anybody else on council? You all right with it? Okay, we'll open up the public comment on this. Come on down.
I would.
Yeah, sure. We've been holding our breath.
Here we go. Well, you know I'm opposed to this because this is for
Give your name for the record, please.
Janet Pittsville's. Thank you. 30 years as opposed to what they've always done in the past, which is a bond referendum for 2 or 3 years. This is 30 years that the voters won't be able to have a say in this. There is no goals or objectives stated in this other than they want sustainable, meaning unlimited for 30 years. We don't know what they're going to take from the sales tax to pay for this. Everybody seems to be excited that Amazon.com will increase revenue. We don't know that. Revenue's declining in the state, so something will give. We also, if this is not passed and we don't have it, we also already have open space. New Jersey is very much into open space. Every county in the state pays for open space, $330 million a year, every year from the county. So open space will not stop if this is not passed. So what we're doing in effect is adding another $200 million on top of the $330 million New Jersey taxpayers already pay for 30 years. We're not going to pay off the Garden State Preservation Trust, the last one we did for 10 years like this with sales tax, until 2029. This goes to 2044. So now you have both of them that you're paying for out of sales tax until 2044, at least 2029. And then the second thing that I will say about this is you had a lovely letter from the American Literal Society, which is part of this Keep It Green coalition that's pushing this through the New Jersey League of Municipalities, which objected to us getting a water allotment. I'm sure you read this in the Herald, a letter written by Renee Bright from Millview, who is the project manager for the Delaware Bay American Literal Society, and she was totally opposed to us getting our water allotment. In fact, the majority of these groups would like to see us abdicate the entire Cape May County and just preserve the whole thing. So 9 times out of 10, these groups are fighting us. They fight us for Route 47, the Route 55 to be finished. They fight everything that we have down here. They don't live here, but they don't like us very much. This is the 175 group. Third thing is if you like that one so much, that the New Jersey League of Municipalities is passing, then I suggest that you also look to pass the resolution S1896, which is sharing the ratables in the municipalities when appeals are given amongst the municipality, the schools, and the fire companies. That also is a canned resolution from the New Jersey League of Municipalities. So if you want to go for their other canned resolutions, I strongly urge you to consider that one too. Thank you.
Why? Thank you. Just to respond briefly.
Yeah.
The mere fact that the Literal Society is supporting this issue, and we may or may not, depending on council, doesn't mean we support everything they do, Janet. That's not fair in a certain way. I don't support their objection to our water allocation, and we stood there and went toe-to-toe with them on that. So that certainly is one. The other thing which you threw in at the end, I mean, if people want to listen to that, we could discuss that, but that's another fight, another time.
Well, that one was proposed prior to the open space thing, so I'm curious that you would
Yeah,
opt
but
for
we
the open
responded.
space and not do
Right.
that one.
Well, what we had was a request by a citizen to have a discussion on this and take a look at it. So
The Keep It Green Coalition, the ones that come here, like Jessica Dower, who came with the resolution.
No,
to
not
get
for
you
this.
to-
No, this was somebody that's, you know, that
Because I didn't hear it, you know, at a
well,
council meeting.
okay. All I'm saying to you is that I went through this kind of item by item last time, and I gave you how I felt about it. And yes, it will be paid off over a long period of time. And yes, it should be paid over a long period of time, because the people, 30, 40 years from now will enjoy the same parks and open fields and recreation areas that I'm enjoying now, and they should pay their share at that point in time. I'm just saying to you that that's how I feel about that as far as,
Well, Mayor Beck, this is to add to what we currently have.
I got
Not to maintain what we currently have. We have 1.4 million acres. A third of New Jersey is already preserved, a third is developed, a third cannot be developed, well, a little portion of the remaining third. It's so minute what's left, which is why they don't quantify how much we're gonna add to it. So, okay, so for 30 years, you're gonna get over 200 million, plus the 350 million, $500 million. And that's just in cash. You're going to bond for even more of that to get what? How much more land is going to be acquired? Nobody quantifies
Well, again,
it.
this
Because
is-
there isn't a
and we
quantification.
said this before, what goes up can come down. If they, at some point, the next generation says, we don't want all this land, it's their prerogative to do something as far as that part goes. Doesn't necessarily mean that they can't turn around and go in the opposite direction down the line. I mean, we're not going to meet on this. You feel one way about it, and I think most of the council feels the other way on it, but I appreciate your input.
Thank you.
Yes, this gentleman's up to bat here. Bill?
Bill Greenfield, Villas. Actually, I support the resolution. I think we need all the money we can to try and keep open space open. I mean, people that have been born and raised around here in Cape May County, there should be a lot more open ground, and open areas. It's just getting developed. And, I mean, we're talking about 30 years from now to pay it off. But 30 years from now, people could be looking back and saying, darn, we should pass that bond for $200 million. Look at all the land we could have kept open, you know?
Yeah,
It's, I mean, is there anything that's so far that the money hasn't been appropriated for open space from past bonds, that they rated it for general fund or
From other bonds, they've done this.
what?
Well, this is new.
This is a whole new.
I mean, I
Should be a lot.
I don't really recall having,
yeah.
reading anything about.
And they haven't finalized
space
it.
being rated.
Our resolution basically is kind of, in a certain way, I would say, nondescript. It doesn't specify one way or the other.
I agree with you, they read stuff all the time for,
Unemployment,
you know,
training.
I don't really remember anything about open space.
I'm just saying, where You're saying open space, like 60% of what became a county.
Right,
Open
well, what
space
did it
now.
used to be? I mean, I remember when there was a lot more
Yeah.
space.
Well, I remember it was a lot more too, and it's, how much
And,
more
you
do
know,
you
we're
have?
having problems with water supplies and all. I mean, keep this, as much space as we can keep open, that's where we
What's
draw
left
the water
open?
table.
My thing is, what's left open for development in this area?
I think we got enough development. I mean,
Right, I'm partially agree, but I'm saying what's actually left open for development in this area.
I don't
We're
know,
not-
people building
there's
stuff,
not much.
people are building stuff all the time.
You're not gonna
so,
build
I mean,
residences
it's-
there.
You're not gonna
Well,
stop that, but it's gonna help
I don't know
keep
what-
some things
what
open.
point you
And-
want to have more
But this money
residences.
could be used along sometimes with county open space money, they match it with state open space
County's
money,
done a
and
wonderful job on
you
it.
get more bang for your buck, so. And I do remember, I thought I seen something in the paper about 1/5 of 1%.
1/5 of the 1 cent. Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
thank you. And I think this gentleman here, Fred, was up next, then Steve.
Fred Long, Cold Spring. I asked that this be introduced. I'd like to thank council for putting on the agenda. I'd also like to clear up how this whole thing is going to be financed, because I think there's some misunderstandings. First of all, the latest data that I have available for the total annual tax collected for all the counties under their respective open space programs is $221,949,512. That's a little lower than the number that was just mentioned. The thing to understand with this, in 1998, the voters of New Jersey authorized a open space acquisition program that was to run for 30 years. It paid $98 million a year for each of 30 years. The first 10 years of that, the state could use that $98 million per year to either acquire open space or for debt service. After the 10-year period, which is fiscal year 2010, for the next 20 years, they can only use that $98 million a year for debt service. That's all they can use it for.
Okay.
They have tried, as I understand it, to match the amount they need to pay off bonds that have been issued by the state in that period of time. So that $98 million can only go to pay off debt service.
Okay.
What's happening now is there is the bond issues that have previously been issued by the voters of the state, approved by the voters of the state, have been all committed. So to continue this, they need another either resolution or constitutional amendment or whatever, some additional source of sustainable funding. They, in the resolution that the League of Municipalities proposed, they listed 3 things they're looking at. The most significant of those is Senate Bill 2425, which proposes, like the 98 bill, a constitutional amendment is where this is going to go. I mean, this will be a piece of the state constitution, which with the 1998 proposal, the revenue for that came from sales tax. That's in the resolution that was passed for that 98 thing. The current bill, which is one of the bills that the state's considering, has a feature that also uses the sales tax as a source of revenue for sustaining this program. They state that will be at $200 million per year from the state sales tax to finance what they would need to acquire not just open space. There are 4 categories of things in this. There's open space preservation, there's farmland preservation, there's recreation activities, and there's what's called blue acres. And this enables the state to purchase lands which have been ruined by Sandy, let's say, and they belong at this point better in the public domain than they do in private domain. That's what Blue Acres does. It's not just plain open space we're talking about here, it's those 4 categories. There's no bonds in this. Bonds are no longer involved in the discussion. So we're not talking debt service for the money that would be a part of this Senate bill if it's approved. There's a companion bill in the House. So if this is done, it would be a sustainable source of revenue which continues, which would not be based on bonds, which would therefore not have a debt service component to it. The debt service on the previous 98 bond issue would be paid from the $98 million per year appropriated under that up until 2029. And so, long story short, I support this resolution as I did when I introduced it, and I would ask the council approve it. This does nothing more. It doesn't pick out one of the things. It doesn't say a particular thing the council approves of. It just says you approve of the process of finding a good way to sustain what the voters in this state have sustained continuously since 1961. Thank you.
I agree with you, and if they chose the wrong method to fund this, this council could turn around and say, well, no, we don't support that. I mean, and that to me would be important, because if they chose the method of a surcharge on your water bill, I would recommend that we would do just that. Now, the information I received, as I said last time, is that's not going anywhere. But that is just something that I'm putting out there. Steve?
Yeah.
Steve Sheffs of the Town Bank. I am strongly in favor of this bill for several reasons. Number one, from the standpoint of the water, I'm sure most everybody read Renee's article in last week's Herald. I strongly suggest that you read the article that's replying to that in this week's paper. She doesn't want us to did not want us to get that allocation because her whole heart is set on conservation. She goes to every meeting where there's a water allocation and opposes it. But I ask you just to think for a moment. We have about 9,000 homes with wells, and about 95% or 8,500 of these have water filters. Now, these water filters operate several times a week in the middle of the night. They take a lot of water out of the ground to be pumped out to the sewer line, to go to the MUA to be treated, and then shipped all the way over to Route 47 to go out to sea. This is water that, in my view, is being wasted. Secondly, I think if your household is like mine is, I look at every bill that comes in. I don't get a bill for water now. But I do pay for chemicals and salt and all this other stuff that I won't have to pay for anymore. And our bills will be about the lowest in the whole county, I'm sure of that. The other thing I just want to touch on for 1 second is the historical side of it. Being the Town Bank resident, you know, it was purchased in 1630, and we searched for 30 years to get the deed. And we got a copy of the deed from Amsterdam. And I have a copy that I will donate to the zoo, including the translation. But that was signed on June the 3rd of 1631. There's nothing anywhere in South Jersey with a greater, longer history than Town Bank. And I think it's terribly important that we expand the things that we're doing, like with the school, to include the stories of Town Bank. William Penn living here and being responsible for changing our name from Portsmouth to Town Bank. Few people know this, but I think it's terribly important that everybody know, and I thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to talk about the proposed resolution? Yes, John?
John Skronsky, 607 Arctic Avenue.
Right.
Just so you know, for years, New Jersey has been preserving Green Acres farm preservation. I mean, we're probably one of the first states to start doing this. And at this point in time, with the state being in such financial problems, I just can't see spending that kind of money. So, I wish to oppose.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak? Yes, sir.
Hey, Peter from the Village. I totally agree with Councilman Conrad with that, and as far as this resolution here, I think it should be tabled, thought about it a little bit more, not put through, because I don't know if you really know what your bonds are. You're getting bonds. You're going to put out. You're going to take care of this. The taxpayer pays for it. It comes down to a credit card. You're still putting, if you agree to this as a council, you're still putting the whole state, as far as people paying for this. It was on a referendum, on a vote like the last one, and just about squeaked through. Let the people decide it. But when you throw in your hat and say, oh yeah, we'll back it up, and when you read the resolution, you come to the very end, it's all political in the background. Every one of them. It goes to Christie, it goes to Van Drew, it goes to all your, quite a few of your, your municipalities, the League of Municipality, keep it green, your environmental, it's all being pushed that way. The people are not having a chance to vote on it, and I don't think this council should really vote on it and just table it, leave it sit there. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who wishes to address council? Close the public portion. Do I have a motion to approve 164?
I'll make that motion approve.
Second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Conrad?
No.
Councilmember Douglas?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Clark?
Yes.
Mayor Becker?
Yes. All right. Where are we at with this? Okay, we go down to administrative reports. Does anyone have any comments on the administrative reports? Go to council comments. Councilman Conrad.
Oh, I know everyone's going to talk about the triathlon. I want to thank everybody in the background of that event. Steve did a wonderful job setting it up, but our recreation department was right there with them, setting it up. What people didn't see, they saw the participants, they saw all the happy stuff. They didn't see our emergency service workers, the RBA guys. They were everywhere. I was in command all the day and had a wonderful view of, what was it, Bill? We got to see bike guys go past every so often, bicycle racers. Everything went smoothly. I believe this town's in wonderful hands right now. It's all the drills, everything else. The stuff that no one knew was going on because it went so well. And I want to thank all the volunteers that came out with their own time for that triathlon. It was a wonderful event. I would love to see it again. Other than that, I believe everyone else had better views, so you guys can talk about that.
The triathlon was an outstanding event. I had the opportunity to be out on the ferry, watching the people jump, listening to people. We heard a lot in the ferry terminal beforehand. People come up to us and say this is one of the most organized events they've ever been in attendance to. And some of these people have been all over the country. And Steve did an outstanding job with his crew and also everybody involved. Our police department, all the other departments, the rescue services.
Prosecutors did a wonderful job also.
Prosecutors, I mean, we had departments from, I seen people going by, Homeland Security, we had Amtrak, we had, I seen TSA, I seen all our local departments. There was a lot of people involved with this. The rescue people out on the water. The swimmers felt really secure and safe because there was people all around them to make sure that they were okay. All through the routes on the bike, all through the routes on the running, and one exceptional area too was the captain of the ferry boat. A lot of people, we were there, we seen what was going on. There was difficulties of basically keeping that boat in position so these swimmers could get off safely. And Captain Maycomer, he did a wonderful job. The boat had to reposition 3 times in the first part, which he took it level-headed. He just moved on. He said, we have to reposition for the safety of everyone. And not knowing a lot about the race concepts, but the race started by them, the electronic band, they stamped on a mat that was on the actual deck of the ferry. That's how it all started. That's how their time started. So even though we had to reposition 3 different times, their time didn't start until they actually hit that, and their time ended when they got at the end of the race. But overall, people were commending everybody involved. I think I heard it was over 150 volunteers that came out and helped. And that's community-wise. That's community being involved. And I would just say that I know as far as I'm concerned, and hopefully the rest of the council, is Steve start planning for next year. And I think he's already started that move, and he'd like to build a little bigger. He did say he would not like to overbuild it, but basically it was the first event on the East Coast of any magnitude this size. Jumping off a boat. And that was what the excitement was. People wanted to jump off the ferry. There were a few that had a little delay on jumping, but they did make it. Everybody that went in the water came out of the water.
The pitchfork helped.
Yeah. But it was a great event, and a lot of people, we were behind the scenes, we were seeing what was going on, well organized, very well organized, and a great impact for the town. We got some reports that some of the local shops started seeing business a month in advance of this coming in, whether it be bike shops, wetsuit shops, the different area shops. People started venturing to our area because they wanted to see the area where they were going to be competing in. So we did get a great influx of people. The programs are set up. I just see it being bigger and better next year. It was a great job. Oh, one more thing.
Go for it.
Norris did an outstanding YouTube video.
Don't steal my thunder.
But I'll let you go.
I was going to say, if a picture's worth 1,000 words, a video is worth a whole lot more. So I'm not going to say very much, but just to tell you that I was so taken by it that I immediately came home with probably about 6 hours of raw video that we took there. And we dedicated a video to the Del Monte family, the whole family, and also to Lower Township. It was a reflection on the good work of Stephen Del Monte and all of us here in Lower Township. So there's a video that you can see on our Township Facebook page. So check it out on YouTube, or you can just Google Escape the Cape on YouTube and find it. And over 1,000 people have already seen it, which is pretty amazing. So I want to say a word about an experience I had last weekend. And, you know, of all the members of council, I have the least understanding of what our officers go through, our police officers go through on a daily basis. So at the encouragement of a good friend of mine who's the prosecutor, Ron Galzunas, I decided to just ride shotgun with a police officer for, it would have been from Saturday evening at about 7 o'clock, and I made it all the way till almost 6 o'clock the following morning. This was the first experience I've been inside a police car, understanding all of these things. I usually been on the wrong side of a speeding ticket up till now. So here's what I saw. Within the first 2 hours, our police officers had to deal with someone dying, someone who, a domestic situation that was violent, and one officer had to take time to attend to that person in a cell, while another officer was attending to someone who had just passed away. Within that time, the power went out, and these officers had to race around 3 of them. Now our squad, what I learned, is 5 people, and as soon as something happens, one officer is down attending to that. Then something else happens, another officer is down. So now there's 3 of us, and a whole lot of lights that are out. And the officers raced around to understand and prioritize the lights that they needed to personally man and cover as a result of that. Within that time, there was someone stopped for drinking while intoxicated. And one of the things that I realized is when someone is stopped, right here on Bayshore, that it took one officer to impound the car, another officer to drive the passengers in this car home, an officer that knew the rules of the road, all the procedures that you have to go through to properly make sure that what they're doing is lawyer-proof under the law, and follow all those procedures, not to mention what happens when they come back to the station. 2 officers having to spend at least 2 hours going through all the process of trying to get a proper breathalyzer test and get 2 functioning results so they can take an average. And at the end of all of this individual had 4 prior convictions, did not have a license, and was driving on our streets. And I was really struck by how much time is consumed as a result of our officers trying to keep our streets safe from people that are driving. This guy had, under the test that he took, what's the legal limit is 0.08, he was 1.9. And it was just it was a shock. We watched this man in the being interviewed, but I'm concerned by the fact that, you know, the people, we go through all this effort to put them and convict them, and then they seem to be going right back out onto the streets. But this week, I thought that I should say a word about this because 2 of our officers were injured this week, and the night went on. I mean, we had someone else was stopped, and it turned out that they were a violent gang member. So it just goes on and on. And the officer that I was with was Sergeant Pat Green. And I watched that he was willing to answer my questions and help me understand, but at the same time he was keeping in his head a chessboard of where all of his team was, who was up, who was down, and scrambling to make sure that the lights were covered. And he didn't seem to be the least bit tired by 5 o'clock in the morning. He was still fresh and upbeat, and I was ready to go to bed. So I just want to say that I made a new friend. I gained a huge amount of respect for what our police officers are going through, and I want to go back again because I think it's what the police officers are doing for us is the most important thing we do as a township. It is certainly the largest and most important piece of what we're doing. And at least from my perspective, I can't understand enough about it. And I encourage everybody else to take me up on it, see if they can make it past 5:30 in the morning.
The deputy wants to be a deputy, is what he's saying. That's. And I'm glad you did that. I think you signed me up for one of the nights. I hope I can stay awake.
They said they'd like to see you out there.
Yeah, right. I did that, but I've never done it here, and I'm sure it's a different ballgame, and I look forward to the challenge. I have a lot of respect. I respect what they do. I mean, it's not an easy job. It has its moments. It's a job I loved. I miss it and still do now, but I mean, at the same time, it's a young guy's game. I understand that, and we appreciate what they do. I'll get there. To the triathlon. It really was a day to showcase our town, which is one of the goals that all of us on council have. You know, the thanks, you know, these guys mentioned an awful lot of people, and rightfully so. Beginning with Steve Del Monte, all the way through, And in all honesty too, our rec department, Mitch and Jim, Mitch Plen and Jim Ridgway, and our rec advisory board. I went over there Saturday, and they were writing numbers on Saturday on people. And I'm telling you, this Steve that ran the show, he could have planned D-Day. I mean, he just had everything down. He knew exactly what was going on. Now, before Sunday, I had gotten an email from somebody I know that has a store in Cape May, told me that people were coming in with numbers written all over them. So, you know, you couldn't ask for a better test of what regional initiatives such as this, the impact they have economically throughout the county. When we win, the other towns win. When they win, we win. We're in this together. Now, for everyone that walked into that store that had numbers written on them, there was the family that came with them. So it wasn't 5 or 10 people that came into these stores. It was 40 or 50 people who came to this individual's one store. It drew an awful lot of people down there. There was thousands that were there just to watch. You know, but in all honesty, when it first came out, I don't think there was anybody who was sitting there saying, "Please, everybody, make it to the shore." And when you were watching from the back of the ferry, and I was there with Glenn and Norris and Jim Neville, they looked like turtles. They all jumped in. They're all scampering across the water, heading towards the beach. It looked like one of the National Geo films or whatever. I had the earnest desire to join them, but without a sliding board, I'm not doing this. I mean, I want a gentle land into that. But it just was, it was planned so well, it was executed so well, and so many people to thank. I don't think we do justice to them. But I look at a bigger picture too, and that is that it is something that Lower Township can be proud of and they can celebrate. And it brought another piece of that huge puzzle that I like to talk about as to what our future is going to look like. This thing will not get smaller, like we said, it'll get bigger. It, as well organized as it was the first time, I can't imagine how they can get it any better organized than they had it. I mean, when we came off the ferry, we had to line up. Now, when we started, we were up with the pilot up top, and we pulled out. And it was neat when they did the national anthem to start the race. And you look out the window, and there's all the levels, and all the people were standing there, and they were so excited, and they went with that. And when it was over, it was like a ball game. People are cheering and yelling. And that was kind of really neat. But then it was neat to go down when they were jumping off and to turn around, look up at the different decks, and everybody hanging over, cheering each other on. A lot of groups went out, 4 and 5 people together, and jumped in and swam together. And it was so well organized. They had like a flotilla of like kayaks on one side and boats over here. I mean, you couldn't possibly really get lost in this thing. They kept guiding people towards the center, and they would pass them on as they went by. So it really was, safe. Everybody made it. But like I said, at the end, we lined up so they could get our head count as we came off to match the exact number that went on the boat with the exact number that came off the boat to show you how thorough they were. So it was remarkably, run. And, it has my admiration. But again, it's like we said, we've had a number of people, and we saw one with Dave when he came in, his passion and his emotion, his love for the town, his love to want to do something. And this guy, this Steve Del Monte, he couldn't stop saying enough about the cooperation of the DRBA, which was immense. I'm not sure if we mentioned their role in this, but without them, we wouldn't have gone anywhere. And the cooperation of Lower Townships, the workers that were involved from one end to the other throughout our town, and the other volunteers that were there. So, it was all good, and we can't wait for next year.
Like his one comment was, it was a dream working with all the groups from whatever part they took in this event. He said it was a dream. He never has been to an organized area where everybody was willing to work together. He said it was really, it was a dream. That's what the exact word he said. He said that he had never seen so many different areas, different groups, different people, organizations, departments, everyone worked well together.
I've been at Ground Zero on a lot of different things. My 25 years as a police lieutenant in the city, I used to take my recruits out when I taught at the academy for all these events. I've been to everything you can think of, and I've never seen one run as well as this. This just was phenomenal, the way it was really kind of almost military, and it's
We didn't get to hear the other side. Maybe the captain could let us know a little bit. Was there any issues that you guys had, any major issues? Or?
No, it ran really well. I was in the command post with everybody else there, and there were no issues. Besides, there was 3 injuries, but they were all worked out really quickly. They were all shifted to the hospital, but everything went real well.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on. Moving on up. Now, what do you have me doing this week, Julie? Community, Naval Air Station, we've got that on there. Community Day is June 8th. 9 a.m. to 12 noon, we have shredding at Town Hall. From 11 to 1, we have the bike rodeo at the rec center. And 1 to 2 is the bike auction at the rec center. I'll read it again. Community Day is June 8th, that's Saturday, right? 9 to 12 is the shredding here. They got the big truck out here, right? Then 11 to 1 is the bike rodeo, and 1 to 2 is the bike auction. Now here I come. This is my detail. I am with the Lenape people, the Indians, tribal Native Americans on June 8th, which is Saturday. I will be kayaking.
We need a rescue boat out there with you?
No, I kayak. You know that? It's the dance on the beach that I have to do afterwards that you may need rescue for. So, kayak at 10 from Higbee Beach to Sunset Beach. They are some of the nicest people. I did this last year, and anybody in Town Hall that's dealt with them will tell you they are awesome people, and I look forward to this. So this is this Saturday. If anybody has a kayak and they want to do it, it's on Higbee Beach by the rock pile across from the ferry. And anybody that wants to use as an excuse that they don't have a kayak, I have extra. So I do kayak. So we can strap you onto one. And that's at 10 o'clock from Higbee Beach to Sunset Beach, and then it's a whole day type of thing there. They have, I don't know, my paper's on paper there, Julie, I'm sorry. I'll get yelled at again. Anyway, there's I'm almost there. No, that's not it.
Just the same outfit that prepared you the chief of the Horseshoe
I was
Crab Clan.
I was designated the chief of the Horseshoe Crab Clan last year, Lower Township. And I don't have it. I almost lost the announcements. It's like then they have like a lunch, and then they have like some kind of educational speeches after the lunch. So it's a couple hours. Okay, then we have the same day. I mean, there could be 3 of me and still not do this. You have the June 8th Cape May County Airport race that starts at 9 a.m. I think that's the first time they're doing it. That's the inaugural race. And here's one I hope everybody can attend. This is important too. We saw this when they came in about the Fishing Creek School. This was awesome last year. On Flag Day, which is next Thursday, John, I believe, is it next Friday?
Friday the 14th.
Friday the 14th at 6 p.m. at the Fishing Creek School, we will have patriotic music. Now, you can't beat that. My recommendation is you wear a little bit of a red, white, and blue kind of a color. If you have a flag, bring it or whatever. But last year we had a lot of John Philip Sousa records, which were really awesome too. And it's a combination educational / musical program, right? It's a musical experience, John, is that correct?
Yeah, basically it's a musical program. It amounts to, like you said, John Philip Sousa, patriotic music, and there's a slideshow presentation as well as the music being played.
And what's the best part? Free food.
Free food, yes.
Okay.
Free drinks, non-alcoholic.
Okay. So I'm going to back up one quick thing, one last thing before I go. This is my invitation. Join Chief Bob Redhawk and Assistant Chief Shelley DePaul of the Lenape people for a celebration of World Ocean Day. I'm telling you, they're good people. And you have 10 a.m. paddle from Higbee on the south jetty of Cape May Canal to Sunset Beach at the end of Sunset Boulevard. 12 noon lunch, 1 to 4. Join us on Sunset Beach for a blessing of the ocean and celebration with speakers from area nature conservancies, waterways, native dancing, drumming, storytelling. And it says, okay, here's Bob and Shelley also invite area environmental groups, historical societies, scouts, other concerned organizations, and individuals to attend a gathering on Thursday, June 6th at 1 p.m. at Cape May Point State Park classroom to meet and discuss ways to partner as caretakers of area waterways and habitat. Okay? That's June 6th, 1 p.m. Cape May Point State Park. What else we have? Is that it, Julie? Oh, no, one more. Right? The senior deadline for 2012 Senior Freeze Program extended. The filing deadline for the 2012 Senior Freeze Program has been extended from June 3rd to Monday, September 16th, 2013. So it's extended to Monday, September 16th, 2013. Now we don't, okay. Okay, we'll close this. We'll open up public comment. Yes, Mr. John.
John Skronsky, 607 Arctic.
Right.
I enjoyed watching the triathlon. I thought it was great. But I noticed on ABC Saturday and Sunday there was no coverage. And I don't know if CBS or NBC had any coverage, but ABC didn't have any national coverage of this event. I mean, they had the Manioc run, but nothing was here. So for next year, we might want to let the big guys
They were
know.
notified.
I
The
do.
news media was notified that we were there.
Right. I even believe that the RPA was, they had a plane that was filming.
Aerial.
So I think they're going to try. Right. Okay. Anybody else wish to address council? Yes, ma'am.
Cosette Gasser, North Cape May. I wanted to know the estimated time now for Millman Center to be opened.
Today, they just dropped off sheetrock. That's the latest report, and they're going to be starting the sheetrock soon. I would say by the middle of July, hopefully.
Okay, because last
We should
time
be-
it was going to be in June,
Well,
but I
but-
heard now no.
I'm a very ambitious guy, and we've started this project, and it was authorized by council. I wanted to have our Christmas celebration there. But as things go on, it just doesn't happen as quick as I'd like to see it happen. But I would say by the middle of July, I was encouraged today when our sheetrock was dropped off, that we should be hopefully open.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else wish to address council? Close the public portion.
Excuse me. Resolution 2013-165. A resolution providing for a meeting not open to the public in accordance with the provisions of the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act and JSA 10-4-12. To speak about employment relationships concerning William Mastriani and Chief Brian Marker and personnel issues.
Motion to go to closed session.
Second.
Councilmember Conrad?
Yes.
Councilmember Douglas?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Clark?
Yes.
Mayor Beck?
Yes.